New mic alert, new mic alert. So originally I was going to skim past Cleveland because, they beat my Bucks every single time. But seeing them complete their second 15-win streak, one of the only 6 teams in NBA history to do so, I feel I wouldn't be doing my job as a basketball analyst in this basketball community if I did not speak about this team's dominance. So how did we get here? Well, last year, under the head coach JB Bickerstaff, now Detroit Pistons head coach, Cleveland finished the season with the 4th best record in the Eastern Conference, having a record of 48-34, having an offensive rating that was on the bottom tier, but producing a top 10 defense, which is actually impressive when you understand the situation that JB Bickerstaff was having to handle. We'll get to that in a second. But it culminating in a net rating that was just middle of the pack. And I just wanted to take a second to give JB Bickerstaff a little bit of leeway. I do understand that there was, going into the season, a tad bit of hesitance with him still having the head coaching job for Cleveland, because going into this season, the Cleveland Cavaliers were very content with the realm that they were in, but it didn't feel like there was much higher they could go, nor was it a floor that you could see them not making the playoffs or anything. They were just sort of in the middle of the pack. So you definitely knew that this team was underachieving, but you didn't know exactly how they could have gotten better. And seeing that season play out, it grew more apparent that you weren't going to get that answer because they were hurt literally the majority of the time. If it wasn't Donovan Mitchell, it was Darius Garland. If it wasn't Darius Garland, it was Evan Mobley. Dean Wade didn't play but 54 games. Sam Merrill only played 61. The only players on the Cleveland Cavaliers that saw meaningful minutes that played 70 plus games was Jared Allen, Karis LeVert, and Max Strus. And the most important player for the roster that, you see right now, Evan Mobley, he wasn't available to be able to show his impact. And I don't think you guys truly understand how impactful Evan Mobley is when he's on the floor. Per on and off numbers, when Evan Mobley is on the floor, they produced like a top 3 offensive rating. And don't get me wrong, they still produce a top 3 offensive rating when he's not on the floor. But the true difference is his defense is raising the ceiling to them so high that they're not only first defensively when he's on the floor, they're first by a mile. Versus when he's off the floor, there's still a solid defense. It's still a really good defense. But the historic gap between you being at first by a mile to you being tied for 5th, that is like that's not nothing to just scoff at, And so because of their injuries and honestly what seemed like a lack of fluidity when it came to the unit developing and not being overly dependent on Donovan Mitchell creation, they ultimately were eliminated in 5 by the Boston Celtics. So what changed? Good coffee. Well, firstly, the Cavs released head coach JB Bickerstaff from the organization. Then they signed former Nets head coach and Warriors assistant coach at the time, Kenny Atkinson. And I want to take a moment and truly express how happy and how excited I was when Kenny Atkinson got the job. Seeing what he was able to do in Brooklyn with D'Angelo Russell and Spencer Dinwiddie. Karis LeVert was actually on that team as well before he got hurt off that. Unfortunately, Jared Allen also was on that roster too. Kenny Atkinson was well respected for his ability to not just develop the talent, but have some type of structure that made the game a little more fun, a little more free-flowing, a little less reactionary. And I think overall, Kenny Atkinson was just, he had a personnel that had some type of potential, but he maximized them to a level that I don't think anybody even expected the Brooklyn Nets to play at in 2019. Unfortunately, he ended up being dealt a sort of unfortunate hand, being sort of kicked to the side so that Kyrie and Kevin Durant and DeAndre Jordan of the Brooklyn Nets could be able to get the coach that they perceived as more valuable to their needs. And he hadn't gotten a job since. Wrongfully so, I might add. But here we are, and Cleveland picks him up. Cleveland also extended Jared Allen giving him a 3-year, $90.7 million deal. They also re-signed Isaac Okoro, giving Evan Mobley the rookie extension that he was looking for. However, the most important move that was made during the offseason that I feel like it gave a great sense of hope to the franchise was not only Donovan Mitchell staying, not only Donovan Mitchell not requesting a trade, but Donovan Mitchell flipping his player option and accepting a 3-year extension with a player option in 2027. And the reason that was so important was because Donovan Mitchell has been the quintessential leader for Cleveland since the day he touched down on that franchise's turf. And in the modern game, you see so many players flip from one team to the next because they just look for the best situation for themselves. But Donovan Mitchell was looking for the best situation for this team that he's on. He wanted to maximize as many options as possible before he said there's nothing left for me to do. The concerns for the Cavs were that the offense in the past was very predictable and I mean very simplistic. And it was due primarily because they were over-reliant on Donovan Mitchell creation and Garland's initial drives. And that paired with how condensed the floor was created a sense of having multiple non-shooters, and the space was just congested. And so what did Kenny Atkinson do? Well, Kenny Atkinson came in, and I mean literally found a solution in a matter of one summer. His solution: ball movement is essential, but it's not the quantity of passes, as the Cavs were one of the bottom teams when it came to passes made, but it was the quality of the pass, as the Cleveland Cavaliers since the start of the season have ranked first in assist to pass percentage. And to be honest, it has all to do with the cutting and switching spots for them. And that's the primary reason why the Cavs are first in the NBA in three-point percentage. This season, Cleveland jumped from 48 wins to 64. They went from a low-tier offensive unit to being the best offense in the NBA, while still maintaining their defensive integrity to some degree, being a top 10 defense, albeit being 8th has more to do with the fall off that they had in the second half of the year, after they had created such a big gap between them and Boston in the standings. For much of this year, this team was not just an 8th defense, they were a top 5 defense. And it all culminating in a top 3 net rating. To be honest with you, I honestly don't know who's the hero in this story. It could very well be Evan Mobley, playing 71 games opposed to last year, giving you 19, 9, and 3, shooting 56% from the field, 37% on 3 attempts from 3, and shooting 73% at the free throw line, while also still maintaining that defensive versatility, integrity that he's had literally since the moment he's entered the league. Being top 10 in contested 2s and 3s, also being top 10 in contested 2s percentage and contested 3s percentage. It could also be Jared Allen, who's also top 10 in contested 2s and 3s. And he played 82 games, all 82 games of the regular season this year, giving you the defensive anchor that can be able to rotate properly with Evan Mobley, being more than a quality rebounder alongside Evan Mobley, a consistent lob threat, one of the most efficient finishers at the rim, and a respectable free throw shooter to keep the defense honest. I mean, obviously it could be Donovan Mitchell, right? Playing 71 games, an increase to last year as well, giving you 24, 5, and 5, while shooting 44, 37, 82 splits on demand. And what's more impressive about Donovan Mitchell is he did this while being the quintessential leader and allowing this next person I'm gonna name to be able to flourish into the star that we have to now give him the credit of being. And I'm talking about the guy that I actually do believe it could very well belong to in Darius Garland. Playing 75 games, I believe an increase from 57 the year prior, giving you 21, 3, and 7 on shooting splits of 47, 40, 88, which culminated in a true shooting of 60%. Garland is also now top 3 in Cavs history in totals assists and totals 3 made. He's also just become the 7th player in Cavs history to score 30 or more 5 times in a season. And I just recently found this out. Shout out to my Cavs fans over in the Take Debates server. Please make sure to click on the description down below and join the Take Debates family, as we talk basketball literally every day. But he is now the 4th player in Cavs history to have 5 or more 40-point games, joining LeBron, Donovan Mitchell, and Kyrie Irving. But wait, there's more. As it could also go to the shooting that's the hero of this season's Cavaliers. If you look at this chart, there's about, I want to say, 10 players at least that have been on this roster at one point during this season that was shooting the lights out of the ball. And I'm not talking about like just a damn near 3, maybe 2. No, these guys are taking 3 or more and they're shooting it at an elite clip. I believe the only one that probably doesn't take, that many threes is probably Craig Porter Jr. However, Craig Porter Jr. is more of a product of him not getting the necessary minutes because of how talented their guard rotation is. But when he actually got meaningful minutes, he showed that no matter the volume, he actually can shoot at an elite rate. And at first looking at this team, I thought it was just smoke and mirrors, or I thought it was just a hot streak. But once you got to game 45 and you seeing that, hey, these guys are still going, and then they trade a piece like Yang and Karis LeVert, and they get DeAndre Hunter, and DeAndre Hunter is doing more or less similar things. It sort of like puts it in perspective of like, wow, Cleveland really has a lot of depth when it comes to spacing the floor now compared to last year. And a large part of that is because of the talent, but we also need to give credit to the system and structure that Kenny Atkinson has implemented for this roster. So how far can the Cavs go? Well, as I mentioned earlier, I think we all have been watching this series expecting the Cleveland Cavaliers to be up at this point, but due to Darius Garland dealing with a foot injury and Evan Mobley dealing with an ankle sprain, and depending on the severity, he may not return anytime soon for this series. I think this could be the stop for Cleveland that is unfortunate. However, I don't want this to take away from the inspiration that Cleveland has been to the basketball community this year. What Cleveland has done, just follow me for a second. What Cleveland has done this season is they have created a system, a free-flowing system that has opened the doors, opened the floodgates, quite frankly, to the way that you can generate a high-quality three-point shot. Add to the fact that you have a versatile power forward and center that can be able to operate from out to in to out, and Evan Mobley and Jared Allen as a screener. I believe that we are seeing very well the future of basketball in this unit. And they're not the only ones, but they definitely are showing that there are different ways to skin a cat. You don't just need a shot creator or a playmaker to create everything for everybody. If you have more than respectable IQ players on the floor that can also space the floor themselves, it could generate quality shot after quality shot. We're watching Cleveland not just depend on Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell any longer, but they're respecting DeAndre Hunter. They're respecting guys like Okoro's drive. They're respecting Max Strus's and Ty Jerome's. They're respecting these people's drive. Evan Mobley, they're respecting these players' drives because they understand it's not just a threat that they can shoot the three. They can also attack the basket with confidence. Or you could be like Ty Jerome and just shoot a floater. I felt the need to come out with this video at the very least just to give them appreciation and respect for what we saw this season.